The key turned in the lock with a familiar click as Alara stepped into the mansion she once called home. The marble floors gleamed under the chandelier light, just as they had when she left 6 months ago. But something was different. Women's shoes, not hers, lined the entryway. Perfume, not hers, lingered in the air. Pictures without her decorated the walls. Her husband, Daniel, hadn't just replaced her. He had erased her. Alara stood frozen, luggage in hand, staring at what used to be their family photos, now showing Daniel with a young blonde woman. Alara had returned early from her business trip to surprise him for their anniversary. But clearly, he had moved on. Not just moved on, moved another woman into their house while divorce papers were still warm from the printer. Alara's hands trembled as she set down her suitcase. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of supporting his dreams when they had nothing. 15 years of building what became his billion-dollar tech company together, though her name appeared nowhere on the paperwork. She had trusted him completely. The house was quiet except for distant laughter coming from the backyard. Her backyard, with the pool she had designed near the garden she had planted. Taking a deep breath, Alara straightened her back and walked toward the sound. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she saw them. Daniel, the man she had loved since college, lounging by the pool with a woman who couldn't be older than 25. They were drinking champagne from Alara's crystal flutes, the ones her grandmother had given them for their wedding. The woman wore Alara's silk robe, the one Daniel had bought her in Paris on their 10th anniversary. They hadn't noticed her yet, too wrapped up in each other to sense her presence. "I always knew this house needed a younger touch," the woman said, running her fingers along the outdoor furniture. "Your ex had such boring taste." Daniel laughed. "That's all in the past now. I've already called the designer. We're redoing everything." Alara felt her chest tighten. Not just her husband, not just her home, but they were erasing every trace of her existence. The garden bed she had tended for years, the kitchen she had designed, the art she had carefully selected, the life she had built, all being casually discarded like it meant nothing. She stepped onto the patio, and the champagne glasses paused midair as they noticed her. The woman's eyes widened in shock, while Daniel's face drained of color. "Alara," he managed to say, "you're supposed to be in Tokyo until next week." "Clearly," Alara replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I came home early for our anniversary, 15 years today, but I see you're celebrating differently now." The woman stood up awkwardly, still wearing Alara's robe. "I'm Jessica," she said, extending her hand as if this were a normal introduction. Alara ignored the outstretched hand. "You're wearing my clothes in my house," Alara said. Daniel stood up, now putting himself between the women. "Alara, let's talk inside. This isn't how I wanted you to find out." "Find out what?" Alara asked. "That while the ink is still drying on our divorce papers, you've already moved your girlfriend into our home. The home we built together." Alara's voice remained calm, even as tears threatened to spill. "Ex-wife, actually," Jessica corrected with a smirk. "The divorce was finalized last week." Daniel said, "You agreed to everything. You agreed to everything." Alara turned to Daniel, disbelief washing over her. "Last week, you told me we were still negotiating." Daniel had the decency to look ashamed. "I was going to tell you when you got back. My lawyer found a way to expedite things." "Your lawyer?" Alara repeated. "The one who was our family friend for the last decade. The one who promised me we would split everything fairly." She looked around at the mansion, her dream home that she had helped design every inch of. "And yet, here you are, and here I am, apparently with nothing." "You signed the papers," Daniel said. "Papers you changed after I signed them," Alara replied. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I wouldn't check with the court?" A flicker of worry crossed Daniel's face, but he quickly masked it. "That's ridiculous. You're making things up because you're upset." Alara reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, showing them both an email from Daniel's assistant. "She accidentally sent me the original settlement and the revised one you submitted to the court. The difference is about $50 million in this house. So no, Daniel, I'm not making things up." Jessica glanced between them, her smirk fading. Daniel said, "What is she talking about?" But Alara wasn't finished. She had spent 6 months in Tokyo, not just on business, but planning, learning, preparing. While Daniel thought she was broken and defeated, she had been building her strength, finding her allies, and setting her pieces on the board. "Enjoy the house while you can," she said simply. "Both of you." As she turned to leave, Daniel called after her. "Where are you going? Where are you staying?" Alara paused at the door. "Don't worry about me, Daniel. Worry about yourself. You have so much to lose now." The last thing she saw as she walked away was the confusion on his face turning to fear. Daniel knew her well enough to know she never made empty threats. And as she closed the front door behind her, Alara finally allowed herself to smile. This wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning. Alara checked into the Four Seasons downtown, the same hotel where she'd first met Daniel 20 years ago when they were both working their way through college. The irony wasn't lost on her as she swiped the key card and entered a suite that cost more per night than they used to make in a month back then. She kicked off her shoes and sat on the edge of the king-sized bed, finally allowing the tears to fall. How had they come to this? Daniel had been her rock, her partner, her everything. They had started with nothing but dreams and student debt. She had worked 2 jobs to support them while he built his first app. When it failed, she encouraged him to try again. When the second and third attempts failed too, she never once complained about the long hours or tight budget. And when his fourth idea finally took off, she had been right beside him, handling the business side while he focused on the technology. Together, they had built Empire Tech into a billion-dollar company. But somewhere along the way, Daniel had changed. The money, the power, the constant attention from investors and the media. It had transformed the humble, hardworking man she loved into someone she barely recognized. Someone who could discard 15 years of marriage for a younger woman. Someone who could cheat her out of what was rightfully hers. Alara wiped her tears and pulled out her laptop. This was no time for self-pity. She had work to do. Over the next few hours, she made calls to people she trusted, people Daniel didn't know about. First was Elijah, her college friend who had become one of the top financial investigators in the country. "I need everything you can find," she told him. "Bank accounts, shell companies, hidden assets. If he's hiding money, I want to know where." Next was Diana, her former assistant at Empire Tech, who had left when Daniel forced her out for being too loyal to Alara. "I need access to Daniel's calendar for the last year," Alara explained, "and any emails or messages you saved before you left." Finally, she called Marcus, her godbrother who had become a successful real estate developer. "I need a property evaluation," she said, "and information on any building permits filed for Daniel's house in the last 6 months." With her initial calls made, Alara opened a secure email account and began typing. Over the years, she had maintained her own network within the tech industry. People who respected her contributions, who knew her value even when Daniel tried to minimize it. Now it was time to activate those connections. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Check your email. You won't believe what I found." Alara opened the attachment and gasped. It was an email from Daniel to his lawyer, dated 3 months before he asked for a divorce. In it, he outlined his plan to push Alara out of the company, file for divorce while she was vulnerable, and manipulate the settlement to keep the majority of their assets. He had been planning this for months, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Another text came through, this time from Elijah. "Found something. Call me. Sup." When Alara called, Elijah's voice was tense with excitement. "He's been moving money offshore for the past year. Small amounts at first, then larger transfers once you were in Tokyo. He's got at least $30 million hidden in accounts you don't know about. Can you trace it all?" "Already on it," Alara said, "but there's something else. Empire Tech is about to announce a major acquisition. The paperwork is nearly complete. Once it goes through, the company value will double overnight." Alara's mind raced. That's why Daniel had rushed the divorce. He wanted it finalized before the acquisition was announced, before she could claim her share of the increased value. One more thing, Elijah added. The house. He transferred ownership to a trust last month, a trust controlled by his new girlfriend's brother. Alara felt a fresh wave of anger. Daniel hadn't just betrayed her. He had calculated every move to leave her with as little as possible. He thought he was too trusting, too focused on their relationship to notice the financial deception. He had underestimated her, and that would be his downfall. Her phone rang again. Marcus this time. "Alara," he said without preamble. "The house has problems, big ones. The foundation has major structural issues that were never disclosed when you bought it. And Daniel filed permits to completely renovate rather than fix the underlying problems. It's a disaster waiting to happen." Alara thanked him and ended the call, the pieces falling into place in her mind. Daniel had known about the structural problems. That's why he had transferred ownership, to avoid liability when things inevitably went wrong. She opened her laptop again and began drafting emails to Empire Tech members. As she worked, a plan formed. Daniel thought he had one. He thought he had taken everything from her. But Alara had something he didn't, the truth. And she knew exactly how to use IT.by midnight. Her eyes were burning from staring at the screen, but her plan was taking shape. She would need patience. She would need courage. But most of all, she would need Daniel to believe he had already won. Because the best revenge wouldn't be taking back what was hers. It would be watching him lose everything on his OWAS. She finally lay down to sleep. Alara made a promise to herself. She wouldn't just survive this betrayal. She would emerge stronger, wiser, and completely free of Daniel's shadow. And one day soon, he would understand exactly what he had thrown away. The next morning, Alara woke up with a clear head and a determined heart. She ordered room service, something she rarely did when she was married to Daniel. He always complained about the unnecessary expense, despite their wealth. The irony wasn't lost on her as she sipped fresh coffee and bit into warm pastries while planning her next moves. Her phone buzzed with a message from Diana. "He's meeting with the board at 2 p.m. today. Emergency session." Alara checked the time. She had 5 hours to prepare. First, she called her own lawyer. Not the family friend who had betrayed her, but Patricia Morgan, a fierce divorce attorney known for taking down powerful men who thought they could cheat their wives out of fair settlements. "We need to move fast," Alara explained after bringing Patricia up to speed. "Can you file an emergency motion to freeze the assets based on the evidence of fraud? I can have it on the judge's desk by noon," Patricia assured her. "But you should know, once we do this, there's no turning back. Daniel will fight dirty." Alara replied, "I'm just finally fighting back." After ending the call, Alara dressed carefully in a tailored black suit, power dressing for what would be the first confrontation of many. She styled her natural hair in a sleek updo, applied minimal makeup, and slipped on the diamond earring she had bought herself after Empire Tech's first $1 million quarter. Not a gift from Daniel, but a reminder of her own accomplishments. At 18 noon, her phone rang. Patricia confirming the emergency motion had been filed. By 12:30, Elijah had sent over a complete dossier of Daniel's hidden financial activities. By 1 o'clock, Marcus had provided documentation of the house's structural issues, along with proof that Daniel had been aware of them for over a year. At 1:45, Alara stepped into the Empire Tech headquarters for the first time in 6 months. She had helped design this building, had chosen the artwork in the lobby, had even named the conference rooms after influential black technologists, a history Daniel had tried to erase from the company narrative. Heads turned as she walked through the lobby. Employees who had known her for years stared in shock. Some smiled. Some quickly looked away. Alara kept her head high as she rode the elevator to the top floor where the boardroom was located. Daniel's assistant, Jennifer, sat outside the boardroom, her eyes widening at the sight of Alara. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Johnson, you're not on the schedule for today's meeting," she said. "I don't need to be," Alara replied calmly. "I'm still a major shareholder." Jennifer looked uncomfortable. Mr. Wilson said, "I don't care what Mr. Wilson said," Alara interrupted, her voice firm but not unkind. "The board needs to hear what I have to say." Before Jennifer could respond, the boardroom door opened, and there stood Daniel, his expression shifting from confusion to anger. "Alara, what are you doing here?" "Attending the emergency board meeting," she replied. "This is a closed meeting. You're no longer part of this company's leadership." "I own 20% of Empire Tech shares," Alara corrected him. "Shares you couldn't touch in the divorce because they were gifted to me by investors who believed in my contribution." Daniel's jaw clenched. "How did you know about the acquisition?" Alara finished for him. Or know about the offshore accounts where you've been hiding company assets. Or perhaps you're wondering how I know about the class action lawsuit that's about to be filed by employees who were discriminated against under policies you implemented after pushing me out of HR decisions. The room fell silent. Board members exchanged glances. Those are serious accusations, Charles said carefully. Serious evidence to back them up, Alara replied, pulling a flash drive from her purse and sliding it across the table. Everything is there. Financial records, emails, documentation of pattern and practice discrimination, and evidence that Daniel knew about all of it. Daniel's face had gone from pale to red. This is ridiculous. She's making things up because she's bitter about our divorce. Am I? Alara asked. Then explain why Judge Harrison just granted an emergency freeze on all your assets pending investigation into divorce fraud. She held up her phone, showing the notification from Patricia. The papers were served to your lawyer 20 minutes ago. One of the board members, Victoria Chin, spoke up. Daniel, is this true? Have you been hiding company assets? Of course not, Daniel snapped. This is all a misunderstanding. Then you won't mind if we postpone the Tech Fusion acquisition until an independent audit can be conducted? Alara suggested. Charles nodded slowly. That seems prudent given the circumstances. You can't be serious, Daniel protested. This deal has been in the works for months. If we delay now, we could lose it altogether. Perhaps you should have thought of that before commingling company and personal funds, Alara replied, or before rushing a divorce settlement based on fraudulent financial disclosures. The room erupted into intense conversation. Some board members immediately called their own lawyers. Others demanded explanations from Daniel. Through it all, Alara remained calm, watching as the carefully constructed world Daniel had built began to crumble around him. After an hour of heated discussion, the board voted to suspend Daniel pending investigation and to postpone the acquisition. As they filed out of the boardroom, several members stopped to speak quietly with Alara, expressions of concern and support on their faces. Daniel remained seated, staring at her with a mixture of rage and disbelief. When they were finally alone, he spoke through gritted teeth. You've just destroyed everything we built. No, Daniel, Alara corrected him. You did that when you decided I was disposable. I'm just making sure you don't profit from it. As she stood to leave, Daniel called after her. This isn't over. You think you've won, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. Alara paused at the door and looked back at him. At this man she had once loved with her whole heart. That's where you're wrong, she said softly. I know exactly what you're capable of now, and that's why I'm going to win. As she walked out of Empire Tech, Alara felt lighter than she had in months. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since finding those divorce papers, she felt hope. Not just for justice, but for a future that belonged entirely to her. 3 days after the board meeting, Alara sat in Patricia's office reviewing the preliminary findings of the financial investigation. The evidence against Daniel was mounting by the hour, not just related to the divorce, but potential securities fraud, tax evasion, and misuse of company funds. The judge is taking this very seriously, Patricia explained. The asset freeze will remain in place until all the financial issues are sorted out. In the meantime, Daniel's access to company resources has been restricted, and he can't sell any property or shares. What about the house? Alara asked. Patricia smiled. That's where it gets interesting. The transfer to Jessica's brother's trust? It violated the terms of your mortgage. The bank is now reviewing whether to call the loan due in full. Alara nodded, processing this information. Part of her felt satisfaction at Daniel's predicament, but another part, the part that had loved him for almost half her life, felt a strange sadness. How had the man she married become someone who would risk everything, including his freedom, just to avoid sharing fairly with her? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Please. It's important. It was Jessica. Alara stared at the message, conflicting emotions washing over her. The last person she wanted to see was the woman wearing her clothes, sleeping in her bed, living her life. But curiosity won out. I have to go, she told Patricia. Keep me updated on any developments. An hour later, Alara sat at a quiet table in the back of a small cafe downtown, watching the door. When Jessica walked in, Elara was struck by how young she looked. Nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap, her confident smirk from the poolside completely gone. Jessica slid into the chair across from Elara. "Thank you for meeting me. What do you want?" Elara asked, keeping her tone neutral. Jessica glanced around before leaning forward. "Daniel's not who I thought he was. Ever since that board meeting, he's been different, angry, scary sometimes. And you're telling me this because—" Elara prompted. "I think I've made a terrible mistake," Jessica admitted. "And because I found something you should see." She slid a flash drive across the table. "It was in his desk at home. He doesn't know I took it." Elara picked up the drive, but didn't pocket it yet. "What's on it?" "Plans. For after the divorce was finalized. For after the acquisition." Jessica's voice trembled slightly. "He was going to force you out completely, not just from his life, but from the company. He had dirt on board members, leverage to make them vote your shares worthless." Elara studied the younger woman's face, looking for deception but finding only fear. "Why are you doing this? Why turn on him now?" Jessica looked down at her hands. "2 nights ago, I overheard him on the phone. He was talking about you, about how you'd regret crossing him. Scared me. And then yesterday, I found out." She took a deep breath. "I'm not the first. There have been others, all while you were still married. He has a pattern. The revelation shouldn't have hurt." Elara had already discovered so many of Daniel's betrayals, but somehow confirmation of his infidelity still felt like a punch to the gut. "Did you know?" Elara asked. "About me? About us? Still being married when you got involved with him?" Jessica shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "He told me you'd been separated for over a year, that you lived separate lives, that the divorce was just a formality. I believed him because I wanted to, but now I know better." Elara pocketed the flash drive, unsure whether to trust Jessica, but certain she needed to see what was on it. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Leave," Jessica said simply. "I already packed my things. I'm staying with my sister until I figure things out." She hesitated, then added, "The house isn't worth it. There are problems, the foundation, the plumbing. Daniel knows but won't fix them properly. Just covers them up with cosmetic repairs." Elara nodded. "I know about the foundation issues." Jessica said, "There's more. Black mold in the basement. Electrical problems. It's why he transferred ownership. He knew it would become a money pit." They sat in silence for a moment. 2 women connected by the same man, by the same deception. "I'm sorry," Jessica finally said. "I know that doesn't help, but I never meant to." Elara studied her. This young woman who had been manipulated just as she had been, though in different ways. "We both made mistakes with Daniel," Elara said. "The difference is, I'm done making them." After Jessica left, Elara sat alone, turning the flash drive over in her hands. She wasn't naive enough to fully trust Jessica, but her instincts told her the information was genuine. Daniel was capable of exactly this kind of vindictive planning. Back at her hotel, Elara plugged in the drive. Her legal and tech background making her cautious enough to use a secure, isolated laptop for the task. What she found confirmed her worst fears about the man she had married. Detailed plans to discredit her. Opposition research on board members. Strategies for maintaining control of Empire Tech while appearing to comply with regulatory requirements. And something else. Emails with a contractor about the house, explicitly acknowledging the dangerous structural issues and directing quick, superficial fixes instead of proper repairs. "Just make it look good for now," Daniel had written. The new Mrs. Wilson doesn't need to know the details. Elara felt a cold anger settle in her chest. Daniel hadn't just betrayed her emotionally and financially. He had knowingly placed Jessica in potential physical danger, all to maintain appearances and save money. She picked up her phone and dialed Marcus. "I need building inspectors at the house tomorrow," she said when he answered. "Official ones, with the authority to condemn if necessary." "That's serious," Marcus said. "Worse than we thought," Elara confirmed. "And I want them there when Daniel is home. He needs to know this is coming from me." The next morning, Elara watched from her car across the street as 3 official vehicles pulled into the driveway of what had once been her dream home. She had timed it perfectly. Daniel's car was there, meaning he was home, probably still reeling from his suspension and the asset freeze. The inspector's clipboards and IDs rang the doorbell. Even from a distance, Alara could see Daniel's expression change from confusion to anger as they explained their purpose. He tried to turn them away, but the court order Alara had obtained gave them full authority to inspect. For the next 3 hours, the team went through the house, finding exactly what Alara knew they would, and more. The foundation issues were worse than initially reported. The electrical system had numerous code violations. The mold in the basement had spread to the walls of the first floor. As the inspectors prepared to leave, Alara stepped out of her car and walked up the driveway. Daniel stood on the front steps, his face a mask of rage when he spotted her. "You did this," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "No, Daniel," Alara replied calmly. "You did this when you decided to cover up problems instead of fixing them properly. You think you're so clever," he sneered, turning the board against me, freezing my assets, even turning Jessica against me. "Yes," Alara remained composed. "I didn't have to turn anyone against you. You did that all by yourself. This house," Daniel said, gesturing behind him. "This life, none of it was ever enough for you. You always wanted more recognition, more control." "I wanted partnership," Alara corrected him. "I wanted honesty. I wanted the man I married, not the man you became." The lead inspector approached them, his expression serious. "Mr. Wilson, I need to inform you that based on our findings, this house is being placed under a dangerous building notice. You have 48 hours to vacate until the structural issues can be addressed." Daniel's face contorted with fury. "This is ridiculous. You can't make me leave my own house." "Actually, they can," Alara said quietly. "And technically, it's not your house anymore. You transferred ownership, remember, to Jessica's brother's trust. The trust that's now under investigation for mortgage fraud." As the reality of his situation sank in, Daniel turned his anger fully on Alara. "You won't win this," he hissed. "When I'm done, you'll have nothing." Alara looked at him, really looked at him, and felt the last traces of love she had harbored finally evaporate. This stranger before her bore no resemblance to the man she had built a life with. "I already have nothing, Daniel," she said evenly. "You made sure of that when you betrayed me. The difference is I know how to rebuild from nothing. I've done it before. But you," she shook her head, "you've never lost everything. You don't know how to survive it." She turned and walked away, his angry words fading behind her. As she got in her car, Alara felt no triumph, only resolution. This confrontation wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning of Daniel's downfall. But for the first time, she truly believed that when the dust settled, she would be the one left standing. That a week after the house inspection, Alara sat in a conference room at Empire Tech, surrounded by board members. The independent audit had been completed in record time, revealing the full extent of Daniel's financial manipulations. The mood was somber as Charles Winters addressed the group. "The findings are worse than we anticipated," he explained, sliding copies of the report across the table. "Daniel didn't just hide personal assets during his divorce. He misappropriated company funds, misrepresented our financial position to investors, and entered into agreements that put Empire Tech at significant risk." Victoria Chin, one of the board members who had always supported Alara, spoke up. "What about the Tech Fusion acquisition? Can it be salvaged?" "Yes," Charles confirmed, "but under different terms. Tech Fusion is understandably concerned about our management stability." All eyes turned to Alara. Though she held no official position at Empire Tech anymore, her 20% ownership and her intimate knowledge of both the company and Daniel's actions had made her central to the recovery process. "We need leadership that investors and partners can trust," Charles continued. "The board has voted unanimously to permanently remove Daniel as CEO, effective immediately. And we would like to offer you the position, Alara." The offer took her by surprise. After months of feeling pushed aside, forgotten, erased from the company's narrative, here was formal recognition of her value. "I appreciate the offer," she said carefully, "but I need time to consider it. Empire Tech was Daniel's dream. I supported that dream, but I'm not sure it was ever fully mine." Charles nodded in understanding. "Take all the time you need. The interim leadership team can handle things for now. After the meeting, Ilera walked through the Empire Tech offices, memories flooding back with each step. The late nights working alongside Daniel when they were just starting out. The celebration when they landed their first major client. The growth from a team of 5 to 500 that her phone rang. Patricia, with an update on the divorce case. The judge has ruled in our favor, her lawyer said without preamble. Daniel's attempts to hide assets constitute fraud. The divorce settlement is being set aside, and a new division of assets will be ordered based on the true financial picture. What does that mean exactly? Ilera asked. It means you're entitled to half of everything. Not just what Daniel disclosed, but what he tried to hide. The offshore accounts, the real estate investments, everything. Ilera absorbed this news as she continued walking through the building. The house condemned until the structural issues are addressed, Patricia confirmed. The mortgage company is pursuing action against the trust for the fraudulent transfer. It's a mess that will take months to untangle. Where is Daniel staying? Ilera asked, surprised to find she still cared enough to wonder. He moved into a hotel after the evacuation order, Patricia said. From what I hear, Jessica moved out days before, took what she could carry. After ending the call, Ilera found herself standing outside what had once been her office, now occupied by someone else. Through the glass walls, she could see a young woman working at the desk, surrounded by photos and personal items. Life had moved on without her. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk. It's important. Meet me at the cafe. 4 p.m. R. Daniel. After everything he had done, he still expected her to drop everything when he called. Once she would have, but that was before she understood her own worth. She texted back, I have appointments until 5. I can meet at 5:30. His reply came quickly. Fine. 5:30. A small victory, Ilera thought as she pocketed her phone. Setting boundaries with Daniel felt like reclaiming pieces of herself. T5:45, 15 minutes late. A small act of rebellion. Ilera walked into the cafe. Daniel sat at a corner table, looking diminished somehow. His designer suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his usual commanding presence noticeably absent. You're late, he said as she sat down across from him. Yes, she agreed, offering no excuse. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. They offered you my job. Not a question, Ilera answered anyway. They did. Are you going to take it? I haven't decided. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. A gesture so familiar it made Ilera's heart ache despite everything. I could fight it, he said. I have allies on the board. People who owe me favors. You could, Ilera acknowledged, but you'd lose. The evidence is too strong. Daniel fell silent, seeming to truly see her perhaps for the first time in years. What do you want, Ilera? He finally asked. Money. The company. Revenge. It was the question Ilera had been asking herself for months. What did she want from all this? The answer had evolved as she had discovered more of Daniel's deceptions, as she had reconnected with her own strength. I want what I earned, she said simply. Half of everything we built together. Recognition for my contributions. And then I want to move forward with my life without you in it. Daniel's laugh was bitter. Just like that? 15 years of marriage, and you can walk away just like that. You walked away first, Ilera reminded him. When you decided I was replaceable. When you moved another woman into our home while I was still your wife. When you deliberately tried to cheat me out of what we built together. For a moment, Daniel looked genuinely remorseful. I made mistakes, he admitted. But everything I did for us, for the company, for our future. No, Daniel, Ilera said. You did it for yourself. There hasn't been an us in your mind for a long time. Ilera stood up, ready to leave. The board meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m., she said. They'll formally announce your removal and vote on the new CEO. You should be there. Why? Daniel asked. To watch them hand everything I built to you, because despite everything, it's still the company you founded, Ilera said. And because how you handle this will determine whatever future you have in the tech industry. She paused. It wasn't everything you built. It was everything we built. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can move forward. As she walked out of the cafe, Ilera felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. For months, she had carried anger and hurt, allowing them to fuel her determination. But confronting Daniel, seeing him stripped of his power and arrogance, had sparked something unexpected: compassion. Not for what he had done, but for the man she had once loved, the man who had lost himself along the way. Back at her hotel, Alara faced the biggest decision of her life. Should she accept the CEO position at Empire Tech? Could she separate the company from the painful memories of her marriage? Did she even want to? She called the one person who had been there since the beginning. Her grandmother, Ruth, the woman who had raised her after her parents died, who had taught her the value of both forgiveness and self-respect. They offered me the CEO position, Alara explained after catching Ruth up on the latest developments. And I don't know if I should take it. Why not? Ruth asked. Because it was Daniel's dream, not mine. Because every corner of that building holds memories. Because I'm not sure I want to build on a foundation he laid. Ruth was quiet for a moment. What was your dream, Alara? Before Daniel. Before Empire Tech. What did you want for yourself? The question caught Alara off guard. It had been so long since she had thought about her own dreams, separate from Daniel's ambitions or their shared goals. I wanted to create something meaningful, she said slowly. Something that would help people, especially women of color in tech. I wanted to build bridges between technology and communities that have been left behind. She paused. I still want that. Then maybe the question isn't whether you should take over Empire Tech, Ruth suggested. Maybe it's whether Empire Tech can become the vehicle for your dream, or if you need to build something new. After ending the call, Alara spent hours researching, thinking, planning. By morning, she had made her decision the board meeting. All eyes were on her as she entered the conference room. Daniel sat at the far end of the table, his expression unreadable. Charles called the meeting to order and formally announced Daniel's removal as CEO. Now we must address the leadership vacuum, Charles continued. As previously discussed, the board would like to offer the position to Alara Johnson. Her 20% ownership and intimate knowledge of the company make her uniquely qualified. Alara stood up. Thank you, Charles, and thank you to the board for your confidence in me. But I must decline the offer. Murmurs of surprise filled the room. Daniel's head snapped up, his eyes fixed on her with disbelief. Instead, Alara continued, I would like to propose an alternative. Empire Tech needs fresh leadership. Someone not entangled in the recent controversies. Someone who can rebuild trust with investors and partners. She gestured to Victoria Chin. I believe Victoria would be an excellent CEO. Victoria looked stunned. Alara, please hear me out, Alara said. Empire Tech has always been about innovation, about pushing boundaries. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of our responsibility to ensure technology serves everyone, not just those who already have access and privilege. She laid out her vision, a new division within Empire Tech focused on developing technology solutions for underserved communities, led by her, but operating with significant autonomy. I'm not walking away from Empire Tech, she explained. I'm asking for the opportunity to expand its mission, to use my shares and my expertise to build something that complements the existing business while addressing gaps in the market and in our social responsibility. The board members exchanged glances, considering her proposal. Daniel remained silent, his expression shifting from surprise to something more complex, perhaps respect. After discussion and questions, the board voted. Victoria Chun would become the new CEO. Alara would head the new division with substantial resources and autonomy. Her 20% ownership would remain intact, ensuring her ongoing influence in the company's direction. As the meeting adjourned, Daniel approached her. That was unexpected, he said quietly. Did you think I wanted your job? Alara asked. I thought you wanted to take everything from me. The way you believe I took everything from you. Alara shook her head. That was never my goal, Daniel. I just wanted what was fair. Recognition for my contributions. My share of what we built. And the chance to move forward on my own terms. Daniel nodded slowly. The house, he said after a moment. I've been thinking about what to do with it. It's not my problem anymore. Alara pointed out, no, but it is mine. The trust is being dissolved due to the fraud investigation. Ownership will revert to both of us as marital property. He hesitated. I want to sign my half over to you. You can sell it, fix it, burn it down, whatever you want. Alara studied his face, looking for the catch. Why would you do that? Because it was your dream house, not mine, Daniel admitted. And because he trailed off, then squared his shoulders. Because I owe you that much at least. As Alara left the building, she felt truly free for the first time in months. The divorce would be finalized soon, with a fair division of assets. Her new role would allow her to pursue her own vision while maintaining her stake in the company she had helped build. And the house, the beautiful, broken house, would be hers to decide what to do with. The journey wasn't over. There would be challenges ahead. Rebuilding her life, establishing her new division, perhaps even finding love again someday. But Alara was no longer defined by what Daniel had done to her. She was defined by what she would do next, by the future she would build for herself and for others. And that future, she was certain, would be bright. 3 months after the board meeting, Alara stood in the empty shell of what had once been her dream home. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air. The house had been gutted down to the studs, all the cosmetic beauty stripped away to reveal the structural problems beneath. It's worse than we thought, Marcus said, walking through the space with his tablet, reviewing the contractor's latest report. The foundation issues extend beyond what the initial inspection found, and the mold. It's everywhere. Alara nodded, taking it all in. The metaphor wasn't lost on her. A beautiful facade hiding serious damage underneath, just like her marriage had been. What's the recommendation? She asked. Honestly, tear it down and start over. The land is valuable. The location is prime, but this structure is beyond saving. Alara walked to the back of the house, where floor-to-ceiling windows once showcased the garden she had lovingly tended. Now the garden was overgrown, the pool covered. Like her, the property had been neglected but held potential for renewal. Do it, she decided. Get the demolition permits. But save what we can. The imported marble, the custom fixtures, anything salvageable. I want to donate them. As Marcus made notes, Alara's phone rang. Diana, now her assistant at Empire Tech's new division, Empire Forward. The Washington team just confirmed, Diana reported. They want a partner on the education initiative. Full funding, just like you proposed. That's fantastic news, Alara replied, feeling a surge of satisfaction. In just 3 months, Empire Forward had secured partnerships with 5 major cities to bring technology education and resources to underserved communities. The work was challenging but fulfilling in ways her role at Empire Tech never had been. And Victoria was proving to be an excellent CEO, bringing steady leadership after the turmoil of Daniel's removal. They worked well together, Victoria focusing on the core business while Alara built something new under the company umbrella. After ending the call, Alara took one last look around the house. So many memories within these walls, some beautiful, some painful, all part of her journey. Letting it go felt right. Outside, a familiar car pulled into the driveway. Jessica stepped out, looking hesitant as she approached. I heard you were here today, she said by way of greeting. I hope it's okay that I stopped by. It's fine, Alara assured her. I'm just making some final decisions about the property. Jessica glanced at the house. You're not going to try to save it? No, some things are beyond saving. Alara studied the younger woman. How are you doing? Jessica gave a small smile. Better. I found a job at a startup. It's entry-level, but it's a start. And I'm seeing a therapist to understand why I was so easily manipulated by Daniel. She hesitated. He reached out to me last week. Wanted to talk things through. And? Alara asked, surprised by her lack of jealousy at this news. I declined. Some chapters need to stay closed. Jessica looked at Alara with genuine admiration. What you've done with Empire Forward, it's amazing. I've been following the news about your education initiatives. Thank you, Alara said, meaning it. It's been challenging but rewarding. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, 2 women who had survived the same storm. I should go, Jessica finally said. I just wanted to see this place one last time, to remind myself to be more careful about what looks perfect on the surface. As Jessica drove away, Marcus approached with paperwork for Alara to sign, demolition permits, contracts with the new architect, plans for the future of the property. Are you sure about this? He asked. Once we start demolition, there's no going back. Alara signed the papers without hesitation. I'm sure. It's time to build something new. Over the next few weeks, Alara threw herself into both her work at Empire Forward and the plans for the property. The old house came down, making way for something entirely different. Not another mansion, but a tech-focused community center serving the surrounding neighborhoods. With special programs for young girls interested in STEM, Empire Tech, her relationship with Victoria evolved into a true partnership. Victoria focused on growing the core business while Alara expanded Empire Forward's reach. Together, they were creating a more balanced company than had existed under Daniel's leadership. The board is impressed with the direction we're taking, Victoria told her during one of their weekly lunches. Your division is small, but generating significant positive press. It's helping reshape the company's image after the scandal and the financial picture. Stabilizing, Zora said. We're not where we were before Daniel's removal, but we're trending in the right direction. Another 2 quarters like this, and we'll be stronger than ever. Alara nodded, satisfied. Any word on Daniel's next moves? Last I heard, he's trying to raise capital for a new venture, finding it difficult with his reputation issues. Alara studied Victoria's face. Does it bother you that he's trying to start over? Alara considered the question. Once, the thought of Daniel succeeding without her would have hurt deeply. Now, she found herself surprisingly indifferent. No, she said truthfully, we all deserve the chance to rebuild, even him. Later that afternoon, Alara met with her financial advisor to review her portfolio. The divorce settlement had left her wealthy in her own right, not just from her Empire Tech shares, but from half of the hidden assets Daniel had tried to keep for himself. You're in an excellent position, her advisor explained. Your Empire Tech holdings continue to grow in value as the company recovers. The investment properties are generating steady income, and your new foundation is fully funded for at least 5 years. The foundation had been Alara's first independent project after the divorce, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting women entrepreneurs of color. It operated separately from Empire Forward, but with the same underlying mission of increasing diversity in tech. I want to increase the foundation's funding, Alara decided. Double the number of grants we award next year. Her advisor made notes. That's doable. And what about personal expenditures? You're still living in that hotel suite. Have you considered purchasing a new residence? Alara shook her head. Not yet. I'm not ready to put down roots again. The truth was, she enjoyed the simplicity of hotel living after years of maintaining the massive house with Daniel. Her suite was comfortable, the service impeccable, and she felt no pressure to fill the space with possessions. That evening, as Alara worked late in her hotel suite, her phone rang, an unknown number. She answered with caution. Alara, Johnson speaking. Alara, it's Daniel. His voice sent an unexpected shiver through her. Despite everything, despite the months of healing and rebuilding, his voice still triggered memories, both good and painful. What do you want, Daniel? She asked, keeping her tone neutral. I heard about the community center, he said. On our property. It's a good idea. Alara remained silent, waiting for him to continue. He hesitated. I wanted to apologize properly this time. For everything. Why now? Alara asked. Because I've had time to reflect, to really understand what I threw away. Not just our marriage, but the partnership we had, the trust, the friendship. And I miss it, he admitted. Not just the success we had, but working with someone who understood me, who challenged me to be better. Alara closed her eyes. 6 months ago, these words might have weakened her resolve, might have made her consider reconciliation. Now, they simply confirmed she had made the right choice in moving forward. Thank you for the apology, she said finally. I hope you find what you're looking for, Daniel, but won't be with me. After ending the call, Alara stood by the window of her suite, looking out at the city lights. Daniel's apology had brought no satisfaction, no vindication, just a quiet confirmation that she had outgrown the need for either. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Great news! Boston just signed on for the tech education program. We're now in 6 major cities. Alara smiled, typing a quick response of congratulations. Her new life was taking shape, not defined by Daniel or their past, but by her own vision, her own choices, her own success. As she returned to her work, Alara felt something she hadn't experienced in a very long time. True contentment. Not the fleeting happiness of material wealth or status, but the deep satisfaction of building something meaningful, something that would outlast her. The life she was creating wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of doubt, but it was authentically hers. And for now, that was enough. 6 months after the demolition of the house, Alara stood at the podium on a makeshift stage, addressing the crowd gathered for the opening of the Johnson Technology Center. The autumn sun cast a golden glow over the attendees, community members, city officials, Empire Tech employees, all there to celebrate the transformation of what had once been her personal residence into a public resource. This center represents new beginnings, Alara said, looking out at the faces turned toward her. It stands as proof that we can take what's broken and build something stronger, something that serves not just one family, but an entire community. Through Empire Forward and the Alara Johnson Foundation, we will ensure this center remains a place of opportunity for generations to come, she concluded. A place where dreams are not just encouraged, but equipped with the tools to become reality. The applause was heartfelt as Alara cut the ribbon, officially opening the center to the public. As attendees filed inside to tour the facilities, Victoria approached her. Impressive transformation, Victoria said, gesturing to the center. From personal tragedy to community triumph. Alara smiled. It felt right. Better than holding on to a house full of painful memories. Speaking of transformations, Victoria continued, I have something to discuss with you. The Tech Fusion acquisition is finally complete. After months of negotiation and restructuring, Empire Tech successfully acquired the smaller company, strengthening its position in the market and expanding its technological capabilities. The board is pleased. Our stock price is up 20% since the announcement. Investor confidence is fully restored, Victoria explained. Which brings me to my point. The board has been discussing leadership structure moving forward. Alara's eyes widened. Co-CEO? You've been doing an excellent job on your own. Yes, but the company is evolving. Your work with Empire Forward has revealed opportunities none of us had considered. The board believes, and I agree, that your vision combined with my operational expertise would position us for the next phase of growth. It was the last thing Alara had expected. When she declined the CEO position months ago, she had done so with the certainty that Empire Tech represented her past, not her future. But now, with Empire Forward successfully established and the company moving in a new direction, the prospect held unexpected appeal. I need time to think about it, Alara said finally. Victoria touched her arm lightly. Of course. Take all the time you need, but know that this isn't charity or compensation for what happened with Daniel. This is recognition of your value to the company, past, present, and future. As Victoria moved away to speak with other attendees, Diana approached with a man Alara didn't recognize, tall, distinguished, with kind eyes and an easy smile. Alara, this is Dr. James Carter from MIT. Diana introduced them. He's interested in partnering with the foundation on a research project. Dr. Carter extended his hand. Miss Johnson, it's a pleasure to meet you. Your work bringing technology education to underserved communities aligns perfectly with our department's goals. There was something about his voice, warm and sincere, that made Alara immediately comfortable. Tell me about your research, Dr. Carter. James, please, he insisted. I'm studying the impact of early technology access on career choices, particularly for girls and minority students. Your centers in Boston and Atlanta would be ideal research sites. They spent the next hour deep in conversation, moving from the research project to their shared passion for educational equity to their personal journeys in the tech world. James, Alara learned, had left a lucrative position in the private sector to teach at MIT, believing he could make a greater impact through education and research. It wasn't an easy decision, he admitted as they found a quiet corner away from the crowd. Walking away from financial security and status, but it was the right one for me. Alara nodded in understanding. I faced a similar choice recently, comfort versus purpose. And you chose purpose. James observed. This center is evidence of that. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on technology education, literature, travel, revealing a surprising number of shared interests and complementary perspectives. When James finally glanced at his watch and apologized for having to leave for another appointment, Alara felt an unexpected disappointment. "I'll be in town for a few more days," he said as they exchanged contact information. "Perhaps we could continue our discussion over dinner." "I'd like that," Alara replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. After the opening event, Alara returned to her hotel, her mind spinning with the day's developments. The successful launch of the center, Victoria's unexpected offer, meeting James. It felt as though her life, after months of careful rebuilding, was suddenly accelerating in new and unexpected directions. She called her grandmother for perspective, as she often did when facing important decisions. "Alara," Ruth mused after Alara explained Victoria's offer. "That's quite a turnaround from where you were 6 months ago." "I know," Alara agreed. "That's why I'm hesitating. Am I contradicting myself if I accept? Why decline the CEO position before? I was so certain it wasn't right for me." "Circumstances change," Ruth pointed out. "You've changed. The company has changed. Perhaps this new arrangement better reflects who you are now." Alara considered this. Maybe. Or maybe she'd be stepping back into Daniel's shadow, letting his creation define her again. "Does Empire Tech still feel like Daniel's creation to you?" Ruth asked. After everything Alara and Victoria had done to reshape it, the company had evolved significantly. New initiatives, new partnerships, new corporate values, all reflected a vision very different from Daniel's singular focus on growth and market dominance. "I suppose not," Alara admitted. "But there's something else," Alara hesitated. "I met someone today, at the center opening." Ruth's interest was immediately piqued. "Oh, tell me about him." "Dr. James Carter. He's a professor at MIT, researching technology education similar to what we're doing with the foundation. We connected immediately. He wants to have dinner while he's in town. And this is relevant to your career decision, how?" Ruth asked, though Alara could hear the smile in her voice. "I don't know," Alara admitted. "It just made me realize how much my world has been consumed by Empire Tech, by the divorce, by proving myself. Meeting someone new, someone completely separate from all that history, it felt refreshing." Ruth was quiet for a moment. "Alara, you've always been the type to throw yourself completely into whatever you commit to. That's your strength, but it can also be a weakness if you don't maintain balance. You think accepting the co-CEO position would throw you off balance? I think you need to ask yourself what you truly want for your life now, not just your career. What will bring you fulfillment? What will allow you to grow? What will give you joy?" Ruth paused. "And whether it's the co-CEO position or dinner with this professor, give yourself permission to explore without feeling like you're betraying your past decisions." After ending the call, Alara sat on her hotel balcony, watching the city lights come alive as dusk settled. Ruth was right. She needed to consider her whole life, not just her professional ambitions. For months, she had focused exclusively on recovery and rebuilding. The divorce, the company, the foundation, the community center, all had demanded her complete attention. But now, with those pieces falling into place, perhaps it was time to consider her personal happiness as well. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. "Enjoyed our conversation today. Dinner tomorrow at 7 o'clock? I know a great place with live jazz if you're interested." Alara found herself smiling as she typed her reply. "Jazz sounds perfect. See you at 7. Setting down her phone, she turned her attention back to Victoria's offer. Once, the idea would have seemed impossibly out of reach. Then, after the divorce and Daniel's removal, it had seemed like a step backward. Now, with the company transformed and her own vision clear, it represented something different, an opportunity to shape the future of technology on an even larger scale. Not Daniel's legacy, but her own. Not defined by their past, but by the future she would help create. Alara reached for her laptop and began drafting an email to Victoria. Her decision wasn't final, but she was ready to discuss possibilities, to explore this new opportunity with the same openness she was bringing to her dinner with James tomorrow. Life, she was discovering, didn't move in a straight line from broken to healed, from loss to recovery. It spiraled forward, sometimes bringing you back to familiar territory, but from a different angle, with new perspective, new strength, new possibilities. And for the first time in a very long time, Ilara found herself looking forward to the unknown with excitement rather than fear. The restaurant James had chosen was intimate but not pretentious. A converted brownstone with exposed brick walls, soft lighting, and, as promised, exceptional jazz. A trio played in the corner, the melody of the saxophone weaving through conversations without overwhelming them. Ilara arrived precisely at 7 o'clock, dressed in a simple blue dress that complemented her dark skin, her hair styled in an elegant updo. James was already waiting, rising from his seat as she approached the table. "You look lovely," he said, his appreciation genuine but respectful. "Thank you," Ilara replied, suddenly feeling nervous in a way she hadn't in years. "This place is wonderful." Over appetizers, they continued the conversation they had begun at the center opening, discussing the intersection of technology education and social equity. James spoke passionately about his research, his eyes lighting up as he described the transformation he had witnessed in students given access to the right resources and mentorship. "That's exactly what we're trying to create with the technology centers," Ilara explained. "Not just access to equipment, but a supportive community, mentors who look like them, who share their experiences. It makes all the difference." James agreed. "When I was growing up in Detroit, I was fortunate to have a math teacher who saw my potential and pushed me. Without Mr. Washington, I might never have considered MIT, much less ended up teaching there." As their main courses arrived, the conversation shifted to more personal topics. James told her about his childhood in Detroit, his years at MIT as both student and later professor, his brief marriage that ended amicably when he and his ex-wife realized they wanted different things. "She wanted to travel the world, and I wanted to settle down, focus on my research and teaching," he explained. "We're still friends, actually. She sent me postcards from whatever country she's exploring at the moment." "That's refreshing," Ilara said. "An amicable divorce." James nodded. "Not all endings have to be bitter. Sometimes people just grow in different directions." He paused. "I hope it's not too forward, but I've read about what happened with Empire Tech and your ex-husband. That couldn't have been easy." Ilara appreciated his directness. "It wasn't, but in some ways it was necessary. It forced me to rediscover what I truly wanted, what I was capable of on my own." "And what did you discover?" James asked, his interest sincere. Ilara considered the question. "That I'm stronger than I knew, that my value doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition, and that sometimes what seems like an ending is actually a beginning." They talked through dessert and coffee, the jazz trio playing their final set, the restaurant gradually emptying around them. Ilara couldn't remember the last time she had enjoyed a conversation so much. No agenda, no power dynamics, just genuine connection. When James walked her to her car, there was a moment of tension, the kind that comes when two people who are attracted to each other consider the possibility of more than conversation. "I'd like to see you again," James said simply. "I'm here for 3 more days, and I'll be back next month for a conference." "I'd like that too," Ilara replied. She hesitated, then added, "But I should tell you, I'm at a crossroads professionally. The company has offered me a co-CEO position, and I'm still deciding." James nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Big decisions. No pressure from my end. I enjoy your company, and I'm interested in seeing where this might go, but I respect that you have important things to consider." His understanding was a gift. No demands, no expectations, just openness to possibilities. They agreed to meet again before he returned to Boston, and Ilara drove back to her hotel, feeling lighter than she had in months. The next morning, Ilara met Victoria for breakfast to discuss the co-CEO offer. They sat on the hotel's terrace, the morning sun warming the air, as they reviewed the proposed structure. "The board is fully supportive," Victoria explained. "You would focus on innovation, new markets, and social impact initiatives. I would handle operations, investor relations, and existing product lines. Equal authority, equal compensation, complementary responsibilities." Alara studied the proposal. And what about Empire Forward? She asked. It would remain under your direction, but with an expanded team, Victoria said. You've proven the concept. Now we want to scale it across all our markets. What if I want to pursue other interests as well? Alara asked. Your foundation, the technology centers, personal projects, Victoria smiled. We're not Daniel, Alara. We don't expect your entire identity to be consumed by Empire Tech. The company will benefit more from your balanced, fulfilled leadership than from burning you out. It was exactly what Alara needed to hear. The old Empire Tech under Daniel's leadership had demanded total devotion. The new Empire Tech, it seemed, valued wholeness and balance. I need to think about it a little longer, Alara said, but I'm leaning toward yes. Over the next 2 days, Alara divided her time between Empire Forward, the new technology center, and dinner with James on his final night in town. Their connection deepened, conversations flowing effortlessly from professional to personal and back again. When he left for Boston, they had plans for his return visit in 3 weeks, that on the day Alara was scheduled to give the board her decision about the co-CEO position, she received an unexpected visitor at the foundation offices, Daniel. I won't stay long, he said when her assistant showed him in. I just wanted to congratulate you in person. Alara regarded him wearily. Congratulate me on what? The co-CEO offer, Daniel said. Victoria told me they were approaching you. It's well-deserved. There was no bitterness in his voice, no anger, just a quiet acceptance that surprised her. Thank you, Alara said cautiously, though I haven't officially accepted yet. Daniel nodded. You will. It's where you belong. He hesitated. I wanted to let you know I'm leaving town, starting fresh on the West Coast. New company. For now, I'm working with a startup accelerator, mentoring young founders. Alara studied the man she had once known better than anyone. He looked different, humbler, perhaps less polished, more authentic. I wish you well, Daniel, she said, and was surprised to realize she meant it. You too, Alara, he replied. The technology center, it's impressive, better than any house could have been. After he left, Alara sat at her desk, processing the exchange. There had been a time when seeing Daniel would have triggered pain, anger, regret. Now she felt only a calm acknowledgement of their shared past and separate futures. That afternoon, she entered the Empire Tech boardroom to give her decision. The board members, including Victoria, waited expectantly. I've considered your offer carefully, Alara began. The co-CEO structure is innovative and makes strategic sense for the company's future. She paused. I accept the position with 2 conditions. Charles raised an eyebrow. Which are? First, Alara said, Empire Forward becomes a permanent division with dedicated resources and authority to pursue its mission without constant justification of its value to the bottom line. Victoria Nadiv, already included in the proposal. Second, Alara continued, my role will be structured to allow me continued involvement with the foundation and technology centers, 4 days a week at Empire Tech, 1 day dedicated to foundation work. The board members exchanged glances, but it was Victoria who responded. We can make that work. Your external activities enhance rather than detract from your value to the company. With those assurances, Alara accepted the position. The announcement went out the following day. Empire Tech's innovative new leadership structure, the first Black woman co-CEO in the company's history, the expanded commitment to technology access and education through Empire Forward. The business press covered it extensively, most noting the remarkable turnaround from the scandal of Daniel's removal to the company's renewed strength under Alara and Victoria's joint leadership. That evening, Alara celebrated quietly with a small dinner gathering at her hotel. Diana, Marcus, her grandmother Ruth, and a few close friends who had supported her through the divorce and rebuilding process. To new beginnings, Ruth toasted, raising her glass, and to a woman who knows her own worth. As their dinner concluded, Alara checked her phone to find a text from James. Just landed in Boston. Already looking forward to seeing you in 3 weeks. Congratulations on the co-CEO position. They're lucky to have you. Alara smiled as she typed her reply, aware of Ruth watching her with knowing eyes. He seems nice, this professor of yours, Ruth commented as they said their goodbyes. He is, Alara agreed. But it's early days. We're taking it slow. Good, Ruth said. Slow is fine. Just don't let fear keep you from opening your heart again when the time is right. Over the following weeks, Alara settled into her new role at Empire Tech. The transition was smoother than she had anticipated. Her working relationship with Victoria evolved into a true partnership, where Victoria excelled at operational efficiency and investor relations, and Alara brought innovation and vision. Together, they were reshaping the company culture into something more balanced, more inclusive, more sustainable. 3 weeks after accepting the position, Alara attended her first quarterly earnings call as co-CEO. The company had exceeded expectations. Stock prices were climbing, and analysts were praising the new leadership structure. Afterward, Victoria had champagne delivered to their adjoining offices. To proving them wrong, Victoria said, raising her glass. Them. Everyone who said two women, especially a woman of color, couldn't lead a tech company this size. Victoria's smile was satisfied. The numbers speak for themselves. That evening, James arrived for his conference. They had dinner at a small Ethiopian restaurant, their conversation picking up as if they had never been apart. James shared news of his research progress, and Alara told him about her first weeks as co-CEO. How does it feel, he asked, being back at Empire Tech, but in such a different role? Alara considered the question. Empowering, she said finally, like reclaiming something that was always partly mine, but now on my own terms. As dinner ended, James hesitated before asking, would you like to extend the evening? There's a jazz club nearby that has late sets. They spent the next 2 hours listening to a talented quartet, sitting close enough that their shoulders touched occasionally, exchanging observations about the music and whispered conversations. When James walked her to her car, the moment of tension returned. May I kiss you? He asked simply. Alara nodded, her heart racing as he leaned down. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper as she responded. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. I've been wanting to do that since we met, James admitted. Me too, Alara confessed. Over the next 4 days, they stole time together between his conference sessions and her work commitments, dinners, a museum visit, a walk along the riverfront. Each interaction deepened their connection, revealed new layers of compatibility. I'm coming back in a month for a seminar series, James told her on his last night in town. A week-long commitment, and then perhaps you might visit Boston, see my world there. The invitation was casual but significant, a step towards something more serious, more lasting. Alara found herself nodding without hesitation. I'd like that. As spring turned to summer, Alara's life found a new rhythm. 4 days a week at Empire Tech, working alongside Victoria to guide the company's continued growth. 1 day at the foundation, overseeing the expanding network of technology centers now in 8 cities across the country. And every few weeks, either James visiting her or Alara traveling to Boston, their relationship deepening with each reunion. Have you told him about Daniel? Ruth asked during one of their regular Sunday calls. The whole story? Yes, Alara replied. He needed to understand where I've been, why certain things might trigger old wounds. And he listened, really listened. Alara smiled at the memory. Then he said something that surprised me. He said, thank you for trusting me with your pain. It helps me understand your strength. Ruth's approval came through clearly, even over the phone. Smart mon. Keep her material. Alara laughed. It's still early, Grandma. 6 months isn't that early. On the 1-year anniversary of finding Jessica at her pool, the day that had set all these changes in motion, Alara took the day off, not to mourn what she had lost, but to reflect on how far she had come. She visited the technology center that now stood where her house once had. Children were coding in one classroom, young adults learning digital design in another. In the community room, a group of women entrepreneurs were pitching their business ideas to potential investors, a program sponsored by Alara's foundation. As she watched from the back of the room, her phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Board meeting went well. They approved the expansion budget. We're good to move forward with the international centers. Another buzz. This one from James. Thinking of you today. No, it's a complicated anniversary. Call if you need to talk. Love you. The love you was new. Spoken in person a few weeks ago, now appearing in their texts with increasing frequency. Alara typed back, "Having a good day. Perspective is everything. Love you too." Outside the center, Alara paused to look at the commemorative plaque by the entrance. It read, "From personal loss to community gain." The Johnson Technology Center stands as proof that endings can become beginnings. She had chosen those words herself, a message to anyone who might face similar loss and betrayal, a reminder that rock bottom could become a foundation for something new and beautiful. As she walked her car, Alara felt a profound sense of peace. The pain of Daniel's betrayal had faded, replaced by gratitude for the journey it had set her on. She had not just survived. She had transformed, emerged stronger, wiser, more authentically herself. Her phone rang. Diana, with a question about tomorrow's schedule. Then her assistant at Empire Tech about an urgent contract issue. Then James, just calling to hear her voice. This was her life now. Complex, demanding, rich with purpose and new love. Not perfect, but real. Not defined by what she had lost, but by what she had built from the ashes. And as she drove back to her new home, a penthouse she had purchased 6 months ago, decorated precisely to her taste, with no compromises, Alara found herself looking forward to tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that, with a heart full of possibility.